Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. So I hope you're enjoying this polyurethane bushing install series so far. So today we're going to continue with the install by working on the front upper control arms. So I'm just going to get changed and we're going to get ready to work. Let's get to it.
All right, so to start off removing the upper control arm for the front, you need to remove, I guess, the fuse box. This is on the passenger side. This is the only side that you need to remove something. So you got to detach the fuse box. And then you have to, these are the two bolts that hold onto the upper control arm. So from the top, this is where you need to be. You also have to remove these two bolts here for the shock. So that's so that you could take the upper control arm out afterwards. So this is from the top. Now onto the bottom. What you would have to do is basically detach this ball joint here. And then there's two 10mm bolts here. And this cap comes off. And then there's a 17mm under here with a cotter pin. Pull that out, get a ball joint remover, pop this off, and this should come down. But before you do that, you should remove the shock. So you need to take the fork off. And then there's that 17mm bolt under here that you'll have to remove this. And then basically you could slide the fork off, detach the bolts, and the whole shock should be, you should be able to drop the shock down. After you drop the shock down, you'll basically slide this over the top of it once this is detached. It makes it much easier. I know people tend to detach these bolts in the back here for the upper control arm and then pull it off in two pieces. But that's not recommended because these actually have to be lined up to like a 90-degree angle. So I'm not going to do that. Basically, you want this to be already torqued down before you reinstall it. So I'm going to basically pull the shock off and pop all this off. All right, so as you can see, I've disconnected the upper ball joint. And I've also removed the fork down there. So the shock is actually loose. All I have to do is disengage the bolts from the top. And this whole assembly should come out. All right, guys, so there's the control arm all pulled out. Well, while you have the arm out, you should inspect the ball joint and I guess the various other components. I mean, we will be replacing the bushings only, but the components on the ball joint might not be good. All right, guys, before you do anything, I guess, take note of the orientation. You see there's a marking here. This has to line up with this arm here. This will give you your whole 90-degree. So what I did was I just snapped a whole bunch of pictures of this. It's on both sides, but this one doesn't fully line up like the other one, but it's close. This is lined up to the second mark here. This one seems to be lined up on also the second mark actually. So they are actually lined up. So before you take it apart, just kind of take note of that and how this is supposed to be put together. Next thing is I would inspect the ball joint, and how you would do that is if you look at this ball joint, you already see the boot is kind of muggled up, and if you move it, it's pretty easy to move. I would pull the boot off just to inspect the inside and see how much play it is. And how you would do that is there's a ring in here, this clip. So you just pry it out with a flathead screwdriver, like a small screwdriver like this one. If you have some picks, that would be great. But I don't. I'm just going to be using my trusty precision screwdriver that I use basically for everything. And I'm just going to pop it in there and pry this clip out. And as you can see, the clip's out. And then you just kind of go around in a circle. There you go. And it is off the boot. So at this point, you should be able to twist this off. So this boot is on here quite tight compared to the other one. So it's pretty dried up in there. Yeah, that's no good. Not supposed to have this much play in a ball joint. You easily move this around. It's supposed to have some sort of force. So it's pivoting, but it's got some resistance. But this ball joint is on its way out as well. It feels really gritty and grimy in here. So it'll be good to replace your ball joint as well. So I have ball joints coming to replace these with, so that would be something I'll show you in the next video. So next step is basically to remove this arm. This plate does come out, but I'll remove that later. For now, I'm just going to undo these bolts. And the arm basically just comes off just like that after you you've taken off the bolts. So what I like to do is just put the bolts back in so that I know which way they go. They actually go this way, and so I don't lose them. You will need to use some anti-seize on these later, just, you know, preventative. I mean, anything I take out, I always put some anti-seize on. So there you go. Now you have this arm. Now I'll show you guys how to replace the bushings on this. All right, guys. So basically, you'll start off. You'll need a few tools. The first things first is you'll need a socket to basically hold this down, so that the bushing can fall in there. I will be using, again, it's my 21mm socket that basically goes in and punches every bushing out so far, or at least most of the bushings. This won't go all the way, it just basically pops it through to the edge here, and then I'm going to use an 18mm deep socket and punch it the rest of the way. So again, I'm going to be using my bolt and big flat washer trick. You put it in here, you just whack away. So once you kind of flatten it to this state, you would want to just switch to the 18mm, and this should punch it all the way through. And just like that, it's punched through. And there you go, all popped out. So the next part is you want to clean these up. What I usually do is if there's any rough edges or anything, I would sand it down. But this looks pretty good, so all I'm going to do is just wire brush it. Alright, next is for the bushing install time. So you have to grease the inside of this up. Good. Next, you grease up the bushings. So just take note that there are numbers stamped on the bushings. So these have to face each other on the inside of the arm. So essentially, so this is where the number and this is where the number. The bushings are supposed to be in here like this. So the numbers are on this side here, facing each other. So you can also tell by looking at it, it is a smaller side on the side with the numbers. So this is the end that gets pushed in from the outside to the inside. So let's set this up onto my little press here. So what I do is I face it in like this, put in the end like this, and slap these washers on. Put this one on. And then you want to make sure that it's fairly centered, like so. So you'd hold this in. What the heck? This should be 24. And then step on it. And then slowly tighten this in on this side only. And hold on to the rod. You don't want it to be moving, otherwise it might cut the bushing. So once you've got it pressed in slightly, you can actually wiggle this and it'll go the rest of the way. Just like that. So it's pretty easy to press these in, and then you'll have some excess lube, and you can use that to lube up the other side. Now, I actually left the other side ungreased because usually it'll press up a whole bunch of the lube anyways. So, and let's do the other side. So with this, looks like a aftermarket upper control arm. So it has these lettering A on it. I'm assuming that these face each other. So what I'm going to do is just press it in like this and then have it face each other. Oh, back this nut out a little bit. Feed that in. So it comes in from the non-A side. Go. Hold this down, hold the rod. Wiggle it a little bit, and it's pressed in. Just like that, done, second one. And then now you gotta install the pins that go in there. And there we go. This is fully installed. And now you just put them back on the arm, and you have to reposition them the same way. So that's basically it. All done. And you could, if your ball joint is good, you could technically reinstall it. So for me, ball joint's bad. So gonna have to wait for my ball joints to come in first. All right, guys. So here are the two arms that are side by side that I've completed. This one is the passenger side one. This one's the driver's side one. You can see that this back piece is a little different for each, but I'm thinking this is the aftermarket arm. This is the OE arm. So now you just got to put them back in the car and you're good to go. What I'm going to do is actually, I am going to reinstall these in the car. So while I wait for my ball joints, at least the car will be sitting on the floor for the time being. So I'm just going to go ahead and reinstall these.
All right, guys, so that was basically the install for the front upper control arm bushings. It's pretty straightforward and not too difficult to do. But I know a lot of you may not even install yours because you can just replace the whole arm, which will come with the bushings and the ball joint. As you can see in my install video, the ball joints are shot on this thing. So it looks like we'll be doing ball joints in a future video. But if you guys are replacing your bushings, I hope this video does help you guys out. If you haven't already, please comment, like, and subscribe. And maybe even share my channel out to others to get me some more exposure. But as always, guys, I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers!